Hello, 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 and welcome to FPL Scoutcast, brought to you by FPL Scout. As always, you're joined by me, Andy, FPL Mode, and what has been a week of ups and downs and downs and downs, and a week of green arrows and red arrows and red arrows and red arrows. You are lucky enough to be joined by three people who, thanks to a graphics error, all got green arrows this week, including Hibbo. Hibbo, green arrow this week. You must be thrilled.
Definitely not thrilled. No, it's a difficult podcast to do this week, and this might sound a wee bit dark, but it's a bit like an old-fashioned Irish wake. And for those who don't know what a wake is, when somebody dies in a family, you basically have a wake. And like my team died this week, I got 28 points. I got a game week rank of like 10 million plus, and I think there's only like 10.7 million players in the game, so it takes some doing. And I think Twitter has called me finished. All the decent players on Twitter have declared that I'm finished. And you had the same score. You had the same score as me, so you're finished as well by extension. So, but like, on death there's life. And between two thorns, we've got a beautiful wee rose over there in the corner, and his name's Nacho. So
exactly. I mean, just before we get to him, before we get to Mr. I've had a good week this week, let's just like, so what are the chances of me? I mean, I was tweeting it all weekend saying, this is not going well. This is not going well. It started early as well. I was thinking, all the players I don't own are doing well. So like Wissa, Cunha, Semenyo didn't do anything. I was looking and thinking, this is not good. This is not looking good. But I thought, it's fine. I've got Triple City to come. That didn't go well either. Then I was like, well, it's fine. I got Solanke captain to come. That didn't go well either. And I was just, the whole time I was like, well, Palmer can save me. He can get a haul. He didn't do anything either. And the whole time I was thinking, this is not going well. But what are the chances of me having my worst week of the season, dropping almost 1 million in rank, no, over 1 million in rank, and Hibbo to have the exact same score as me in the exact same week? The chance, look, Nacho's just sat there giggling to himself as we're saying this. But Hibbo, misery loves company. 28 points. Neither of us hid away from it. It happened. We were posting about it online. Just happens some weeks, doesn't it?
But you have to post. You know, there's people that hide, and like it's a game at the end of the day. And I think it's probably not a discussion for today, but it's like, how do you handle bad weeks?
Yeah.
I think sometimes you just have to come out and take it in the chin and say, look, sure, we can't do anything about it now.
I agree. Alcohol.
I already did that.
But if you don't have any alcohol near you, you could always go and grab a Nacho, because Nachos are always reliable. And Nacho, wildcard last week, 78 points this week, smashed it up to 490k. You're now top of the Scoutcast. How's it feel?
Feels good, mate. I'm not going to say, I prophesize my own, succession here, but I mentioned I was going to get 7 green arrows in a row with 3 down, and I would like to refer myself as almost like a trusty Ford Fiesta. I'm always going to turn up. I'm always just going to chug along nicely. Now, mine blew up a couple of years ago, so hopefully it doesn't come to that ending. But I'm just nice and steady, and I'm just here to comfort you boys today. That's all I'm here for.
Yeah. Good man, comfort. You're not going to give us any comfort tonight. It's just, what's mad is, like, this is what happens in FPL, and actually, we've been discussing this an awful lot, where this is a very, very swingy season. But because it's a swingy season, there's obviously room to be able to move up extremely quickly. And obviously, you saw that this week, and we've seen the opposite of that this week. But playing your wildcard, you obviously didn't play the wildcard when everybody thought you would. Played your wildcard last week. Even in the comments, I saw people saying that's a weak wildcard. Smashed it with 78 points. It just goes to show that you're never out of it till you're out of it. And there's so many weeks left to go that it only takes a couple good weeks, like you said. And all of a sudden, you're flying up past where you thought you'd get to.
Yeah, this is the season, isn't it, in terms of the swings? Like, previous seasons, we had probably like 6 or 7 players that were absolutely locked in people's teams. And then there was like 3 players that were just alternated between each. Like, whereas this week, honestly, like, some of the teams are so different each and every game week that all you have to do is almost jump on that ideal team, the optimal team for 3 game weeks, and your rank can honestly like half within 2 game weeks. So it's quite exciting. It's one for, people have to obviously brace themselves for this season, because it is one of those that's going to be very roller coaster for a lot of people, but I'm here for it.
And it's really interesting you said that about jumping on a team for 3 weeks, like that optimal team, because that's what obviously seems to be working. But that's obviously seems to be happening this season when they finally brought in rolling, up to 5 free transfers. And so like I was looking at my team this week and I could have easily done Haaland and Foden to Salah and Cunha, which was so popular. Like so many people were jumping off Haaland. But I thought, no, actually, do you know what? They got good fixtures. It's not too bad. And I can save a free transfer for after the international break. And having 3 after the international break is quite nice. But it's kind of trying to decide in your head which one's actually the best way to go. And like you just said, actually jumping on that optimal team seems to be working at the moment.
Yeah, I think flexibility definitely is big this season with the amount of free transfers available. But I just think it's one of those seasons we got to enjoy it because it is going to be absolutely mental. And like I said, we've got this bloody mystery trip coming up in January as well. So there's just so much uncertainty this season. Who knows what's going to happen? Do you know what I mean?
So Hibbo, if you had to put we're not even off the intro screen yet, by the way. We are not, for some reason, I'm delaying looking at our points. But what if you had to put your finger on it right now, why has this been such a swingy season? Because I don't remember a lot of seasons like this where, for instance, Haaland started like an absolute house on fire and people were laughing at non-owners. Now people are laughing at people that still have Haaland because obviously they've moved on to Salah or they've got both. Why is it such a swingy season this season? Is it to do with bonus points, to do with free transfers loading up? What's happening?
No, I think Nacho kind of not to hit the nail in the head there. It's at the start of the season we saw like extreme overperformance from Haaland and Salah. Salah's obviously kept going. Like he's done 107 points in the first 11 games or 10 games. He's absolutely smashed it. Haaland's going the other way. Like he's totally regressed. He's totally underperformed in recent weeks, the last 5 or 6 or whatever. But pricing has made us make these decisions, and the fact that, as Nacho has said, like in last season, if you looked at your team, you could have fitted Palmer on, you could have fitted Saka on, you could have fitted Salah on, you could have fitted Haaland on, and there was a certain amount of rank protection on the fact that you could have everybody. Yeah. Whereas now you're kind of being asked, like, and it's kind of like making a bet for the gamblers out there. It's like, well, I'm going to back against Haaland for 5 weeks and see how they get on. And it just so happens that people have done that in such a time that he's totally dried up. I've went the other way with my bet. I've kind of stayed on Haaland too long. Against my better wisdom, I think, I kind of wanted to make the move off, and I made a balls out this week, to be completely honest with you. But I think that's the reason for the swinginess. You have to pick one side or the other. You could pick both. You could pick. There's still some teams out there. I think LR, Litraiser has Haaland and Salah, so there is a wee bit of that out there. But I think lumping one or the other and maybe taking the benefits of the extra money throughout your squad.
Yeah.
It's optimal. Like all the analytics boys started slow. Lots of them started without Haaland. And next thing, they're on the big upward trend now in the last few weeks because these players like Bruno Fernandes, they've all started to kind of come good finally. But it's a tough one. It's a tough one this week.
It's a tough one for 2/3 of this podcast. It's a tough one.
Oh, but I'm happy. I'm happy for Nacho, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to lie. I'm not even sure whether Nacho's still on the stream. I think he might have just frozen in a smile for the last couple minutes. He's just got the biggest smile. He's sat there.
I'm just looking at my rank.
Yeah, I know you are. Disgusting. Right. So tonight then we are going to be looking at the points. People are saying I need a new laptop. It's coming. I am getting a new laptop. I don't know what's going on with this one. It's just decided to go, no, I don't want to have 3 programs open at the same time, so I do apologise. We're going to be looking at the points this week, and yes, there will probably be little rants by me and Hibbo, and Nacho's just going to sit there and reminisce about his team this weekend. We're going to be looking a little bit at Haaland and Salah and their XG over the last 6 game weeks and how involved they've been to see if we can garner anything from that very quickly. We're going to be looking at fixtures, and we've also got the great and the good template. FPL Greyhead, who's a fantastic member of the community, does a Great and the Good League, which I managed to sneak into one year. And it shows us the template from those best players in the game and me, so we can see whether we can garner anything in terms of this is the template, when do we think we're going to be moving off some of those players in the template. We've then got our best teams to look at and our community team as well. Now, remember, obviously, this is international break, so there's nothing this weekend, so we've got a lot of time until we've got to lock in our teams, which means potentially some price changes, some injuries, things like that. So make sure you remember we're going to be scoutcasting again next week, and our teams won't change until next week anyway. So make sure you watch us again next week. But this is something to whet your appetite again for FPL coming back. So, here we go. Andy points. Here we go. So these are my points this week. I was feeling all right about this team. I rolled the free transfer to 3 free transfers ready for after the international break. I had Flecken in goal with 1. I was never expecting more than 2, so to get 1 was just about right. And I thought, well, at least if Flecken concedes, I've got Semenyo, and he's more likely to get something. I had Milinkovic with 1, who they just decided to not be the defensive powerhouse they've been this year. Got me 1 point, conceded 3 against Newcastle. I had Pedro Porro, who did get me an assist, but Spurs decided to just go all Spursy, like they do every now and again, and lose to Ipswich to give Ipswich their first win of the season. Rico Lewis got a start, conceded 2 and got booked against Brighton, so got me 0 points there. Foden got me 2 points, did absolutely nothing against Brighton. Mbumo got me an assist, not bad. Obviously, Wissa outshined him, but Mbumo got me 5 points. Hibbo, if you keep laughing, I'm going to block you from this stream. It's going to happen. Semenyo did absolutely nothing, even though Bournemouth got 2 goals and got me 2 points. Palmer got me 2 points. Surprised he played, actually. I was umming and ahhing about whether he played. I thought he would, but he got the start, got the minutes, got 2 points. Wood regressed back to what everybody thought he was going to be before he went on that lovely little run for me. Got me 2 points.
Classic.
Haaland, who I didn't captain, got me 5 points. Got a goal, but got booked late on and then lost his bonus as well. And then Solanke, who I captained against Ipswich, who were winless before they came up against Spurs, and off of a 16-point haul that he got the week before, got me a blank with 2 points. So doubled to 4. So this was 28 points. I was, like I said, I had lots. Hibbo, honestly. Nacho, have a word with him, boy. I was looking at this team and kept thinking there's loads of points where I could potentially get some more points. The Triple City was the one where I was thinking, here we go. I could get something here. Haaland scored early. They had a clean sheet all the way up to the 70th minute, something like that. And I thought, this is where I'm going to get some points. Then they conceded. Then they conceded again. Then Haaland got booked. I got 7 points from my Triple City. They've just been awful to own, to be perfectly honest. And then, obviously, I just didn't have the players I needed to get me any points. No Cunha, no Wissa, no Salah was the big one as well. And 28 points. Salah captain obviously got people an awful lot of points. Bruno Fernandes captain got people an awful lot of points as well. Yeah, it was not fun this game week. I'm not going to lie. 28 points, down 1.1 million to 2 million again. I finally got into the top 1 mil, dropped out dramatically the next week. So there you go. It happens. 28 points. But they do say misery loves company. And Hibbo, you got 28 points as well, just to make me feel good on the stream. So thank you so much, my friend. Talk us through your points.
Don't worry about it, buddy. Initially, I was kind of dreading this podcast, but I don't know. You can't cry over spilt milk. I say this, and I think it's on me to take the skill issue on the chin and move forward. And move forward we shall. So, let's do this. I think similar to yourself. So one net had Flecken, 1 point. That's just standard process now for him. Lewis got me nothing. Pedro Porro got an assist. Gabriel and 4 points. Gabriel with 2. Bumo with 5. He got an assist. Foden 2 points. He's been absolutely terrible for me. Rogers with single point and then 2-2 for Palmer and Semenyo. I went Solanke captain, the same as you.
I didn't realise that.
I'll explain the process now. So double 2, 4 points. And then Haaland, obviously, huge disappointment the last few weeks. So, no, I'm the same as you. Going on the next week, I've got 3 free transfers and a wee bit of money in the bank and stuff like that as well. And last week, I didn't do the Salah thing because I didn't want to take a hit. So the whole process during the week was right, I've saved the transfer. Now I'm going to do the Salah thing. I'm going to do Salah in for Rogers and Cunha in for Haaland. Now, I'm being 100% serious. This is my thought process, right? I went out for a leave and do on Friday, right? Got ridiculously drunk. I swear this is a true story. My phone, I smashed the screen, so I basically couldn't see the screen in my phone screen. So I kind of looked at my phone at about 1 o'clock on Saturday, And the only thing I could barely see the players. And I thought, right, I'm going to swap my captain. So I swapped my captain from Haaland to Solanke.
Oh,
And I was just lying there absolutely dying. I couldn't do anything. And I thought, it'll be all right. I couldn't be bothered. And I didn't make any changes. But like during the week, I really wanted to do the Salah thing. And I just didn't do it for, I don't know, alcohol reasons. And the outcome hasn't been good. Like we talked in the weeks back and we're saying like one of the most important things in this game is don't tank your team in any given week.
yeah.
And this is the definition of tanking your team. But like I've kind of done it 2 weeks in a row now. So like the good start that I had's now completely subsided and we're just left with trying to pick up the pieces and trying to carry your team forward. Now it's going to be a bit of a big task, I think.
The only saving grace I have, and we have, is that we managed 28 points, which is still 17 more points than Az managed in his historic week when he got 11 points. So when that was like, that ended up in a newspaper on an article or something, didn't it? So we're still 17 points more. So you think how badly this week went for us, and he managed to get 17 points less than we did. So that's my only saving grace. So Az, thank you very much for making the people around you feel better. So thank you. Callum, please, please, please give us some good points. Let people tune into the Scoutcast to get advice from people that are good at this game. Please make them feel better about the fact that we've got one person on here that had a very, very good week.
Yeah, one of the few game weeks I will have this season for sure. So
You
yeah,
left
70
points on the bench as well.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start this off by saying I'm a bitter man.
Oh.
I'm a bitter man because Dallo coming off 3 minutes before 60 is outrageous. Like, that's just, I don't know what happened there, but that should have been 6-pointer and then he can leave the field. And also the Trent injury. Apart from that, I cannot complain. I'm not sitting here complaining about 78 points, but I'm just saying the Dallo early substitution was unnecessary, very much. So I just didn't think that was fair. So went for Sells in goal between the sticks, put a Twitter poll out as always. Didn't get the reaction I wanted, unfortunately, and went for Sells over Fabianski. That's my own fault. Can't blame anybody else on that one. Defense 8-0 over the 6-pointer. Dallo and Trent with one apiece, but as I said, it could have been so much more with the teams actually keeping a clean sheet. It could have actually been 90 plus this team. It took the midfield. Salah getting 28 points. Garnacho with 6. Obviously on the bench for Garnacho, so a little bit worrying in terms of future-proofing my team. So again, while this game week looks great on paper, I also think there's problems very, very quickly with it. Trent injury, with Garnacho being benched. So I'm going to enjoy the moment while I can because I think there are problems afoot. Palmer with the 2-pointer and Mbeumo 5. Son with the 2-pointer, probably the biggest disappointment of all of the players this game week. And then the budget forwards coming in clutch. Obviously, when I wildcarded a couple of weeks back, it was all about bringing these budget forwards in for probably about 6 game weeks was the plan. And this game week obviously come up great. Cunha with the 12-pointer, Vissa with the 13-pointer, and even Raul on the bench with 5. The plan was always to rotate these 3. Basically, every away game, Vissa goes on the bench because Brentford away from home are woeful and the numbers for Vissa are atrocious. But when you put him at home, he's one of the best forwards in the league. And Leicester at home in a couple of weeks, I'm hoping the same thing can happen. So, yeah, 78 points. Really happy with the game week. But as we touched on, the swingiest season I've seen for so long that I'm going to screenshot this, put it on my screen, on my computer, and then look back at it in a couple of weeks' time when I'm up above 1 million, 100%.
Proud of you, mate. It was a hell of a week. And, you know, if we'd have all had really bad weeks, I think we would have had probably the least amount of views we've ever had. But for you're propping up this threesome here, mate. So fair play to you. And lots of people in the chat as well saying fair play, great week from you. That Cunha and Wissa double up front is just absolutely beautiful. So fair play to you. Garnacho benching was interesting, by the way. Quite a few people were calling it. And I can't remember. It's Gone to Rigger that does the predicted lineups for Scout. Said he predicted a Garnacho benching. It just looks like we're not wanting to have Garnacho and Rashford because they're both just so attacking inside forwards, whereas Ahmad is just so much more technical than both of them, and it seems like he's being favoured a little bit. But God knows what will happen after the international break, because obviously Amarin will come in. So any kind of conclusions we can make based on Ruud's tenure for 3 wins and a draw, whatever it was we got out of him, we have no idea what's going to happen moving forward. And even with Dallo, Dallo, Mazraoui, we just have no idea at the moment. So having that double up is obviously risky, but you got some nice things out of it. It was a shame for you about Dalot and Trent, to be fair, but you know, I'm not going to begrudge you any more points out of your team. So let's have a look at, people are saying what a bench boost as well. 9 points Fabianski, Raul 5, Anderson 7, all on the bench there. You'd be happy with that in a double game week from your bench, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well done, mate. Right, let's have a look at some fixtures very, very quickly. So the fixtures we've got up here are the next 5 game weeks, and these are ordered based on difficulty. So we've got Ipswich at the top, who always seem to be at the top. They have fixtures galore coming up. So they've got Man United, Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth and Wolves. Then Wolves are in second. That's why so many people obviously moved to Cunha from Haaland. Brighton are in third, and Brighton seem to be getting some of their players back, including Pedro, who did absolute wonders from the bench, and they obviously have Southampton in 13, so worth keeping an eye on them and maybe looking to invest in those. Pedro will be very popular moving forward, I would have thought. Villa are in fourth. Seen so many people moving off Rodgers, but I'm seeing so many games I'm going to be playing him in the next 5 game weeks, including Crystal Palace at home, Brentford at home and Southampton at home in 15. Arsenal are fifth, hence loads of people thinking about moving back to Saka soon as well. And Bournemouth and Chelsea rounding off that kind of top 7 there, with Southampton, Fulham, Nottingham Forest third from bottom. So a lot of people obviously had some good times with those Forest players. They have Ipswich in 13, but then they got some truly awful fixtures with Arsenal away and City away. Man United fourth from bottom, Everton, Crystal Palace and Man City and Spurs also there in the bottom kind of 7 or 8 as well. Hibbo, looking at these fixtures, anything that kind of catches your eye in terms of swings in teams that maybe we haven't had in our team for a little while, but looks like maybe we could be investing in them on the horizon?
Well, I think, I'm a big fan of Brighton. And I think I think in the media they got a bit of FPL community. I think they got a bit of a tough ride, because they've started the season quite well. I think if they had beat Wolves instead of drawn, I think they dropped a 2-goal lead against Wolves. They'd be absolutely flying, and they've had great results against the big teams. But now when we look at their fixtures now, Bournemouth up next to us away from home isn't the easiest fixture in the world, but it gets very good then. Southampton at home, Fulham, Leicester, Crystal Palace at home. So I think people, if you still own DCL, a bit like me, you're going to be looking a way out. Pedro's viable, Welbeck's viable, and I think maybe even the defenders, somebody like Dunk, the keeper, Verbruggen, I think they've got options there, and they're definitely a team now that's catching the eye for me, I think.
Yeah, those Brighton fixtures do seem to stand out, and the Southampton one in 13 as well is obviously the one that's the money game, where if you can get kind of a Brighton player / 2 Brighton players for that game, I think that's pretty lovely. Callum, looking at those fixtures as well, obviously we've just said about Brighton there. Is there another team that's kind of catching your eye?
Yeah, I think in terms of the mid-table bottom half, I think Bournemouth are really interesting. I think they're not necessarily interested in the sense of tons and tons of options available. I think Brighton do have some interesting options. Bournemouth a little bit more narrower in terms of Semenyo, Evan Nielsen. Probably that's it. So I do really like Bournemouth, and I believe both of you got Semenyo right now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, when I was looking at your teams, I know it was a bad game week this week, but I'm looking at your teams thinking, I actually think the structure of your team, barring Salah, is actually the direction a lot of managers are going to go back to. So 2 cheaper midfielders, and based on these fixtures right now, I really do think the combination of like a Semenyo and a Rodgers is going to be very popular going forward. So someone like a Semenyo is going to be really interesting. Obviously, in terms of his shot volume, is one of the best in the league. Doesn't get him off all the time, but I just think when a guy's having that many shots, eventually, he is going to just pick up those hauls along the way. And for me, it has to be Arsenal. I think that's the real big one right now in terms of Arsenal. As someone right now who doesn't have any Arsenal, I know a lot of people are looking at them thinking, they're a little bit indifferent. I just think now that they've got everybody fit, Arteta's doing the classic, just pulling everybody out of the international break. Wouldn't be surprised if we just get that old school Arsenal back, where we just see lots of fixtures over the Christmas period and just real solid Arsenal team where they pick up the results, clean sheets come back to normality. And I think Arsenal assets is probably a bit more of a priority right now for a lot of managers, as opposed to going for the shinier new toys out there.
And I mean, you just mentioned shiny new toys. A lot of managers out there, including myself, are still got double, maybe even triple Man City. They're not looking good on the fixture list here. They're seventh worst. Yeah, 7th worst there. They've got Spurs at home this week, but then Liverpool away. Are they just a pure dump Nacho, do we? No, not. I don't mean them as a team. I mean in terms of their players. But are they players now? Do we just, the people that haven't made that Haaland to Salah switch, is that just a no-brainer now?
Oh, I don't think it is a no-brainer.
Don't do this.
I really
don't do this. Don't.
I don't think it is. I think
Don't move to him, lads.
Foden
Don't do
is.
it.
Foden's a no-brainer. You have to get rid of Foden. I think he could go off at any moment. He always does those snapshots, but come on, look at these fixtures. Spurs has got goals in it. Liverpool game is going to be tight regardless, but then Forest. I mean, if I had Haaland right now, I'd keep him.
No, don't be saying that.
If I had Haaland, I'd keep him.
I just don't see it anymore. I just don't see it. Like, if you're comparing the two, you've got to take into effect that obviously he's just like, so you're thinking about Salah basically, aren't you? And if you had to choose between Haaland and Salah now, you've got to obviously take into account the fact that he's cheaper, but also when Haaland scores a goal, it could be worth 4 points. When Salah scores a goal at the moment, it's worth 8 points. Like, he's basically getting bonus if he scores, isn't he? So it's ruined me this weekend so much that I'm like, no, all my thoughts were wrong. I should be owning Salah instead of Haaland. Like, it's broken me down basically. I mean, I'm not going to talk to you now, Nacho, because you've got Salah. But Hibbo, are you of the same idea as me that it's just, I've been defeated, I was wrong, we should be getting Salah?
Yeah. Like, I look at the fixture.
Yes.
I do. Like,
I'm tired, boss.
I'm tired, boss. I look at the Man City fixture this week, and they could score goals against Spurs. Like, I do agree with Nacho in that respect. Now, Liverpool away is definitely harder. Forest are a good side. But it's more the overall factor of what you can do. Like, I'm looking at possible changes, and that, like, I could be getting on a decent mid-priced or budget forward, you could say. I'll be getting Salah in the midfield, and I'll be getting Saka on too. I'm looking at like a triple change like that. So, like, that's where the money can go, and it would still leave me money to say I can get rid of that mess, flaking and buy Raya or somebody instead. Do you know what I mean? And start moving my team towards like triple Arsenal, as Nacho was saying. So I think it's more about your overall spend, but I'm nearly in a place now. If I come off Haaland, I'll not go back. But the whole thing about Haaland is like fear factor. And the question for me, or my question to you is, does he still have the fear factor if his EO's only about like 40-50%? Probably not, because like in times gone by, like we feared him because everybody owned him, like, like 95% of the game or 90% of the game. But now, like, the only people that don't have him are like terrible teams like me and Andy.
I think the fear factor's maybe going a little bit because obviously recency bias. He obviously hasn't done a lot recently. If he smashed in 2 17-pointers the next 2 weeks, I think obviously the fear factor feels like it's there again a bit. And obviously EO has something to do with it. I think he was finally around about 100% this week, wasn't he, EO?
95.
Yeah. But I just feel like with the change in Liverpool's system, with the control they're doing, with the fact Salah isn't taking God knows how many shots in a game and losing his bonus, I just feel like Salah's turning into that player where he seems to always score a goal in the 80th minute. So as soon as you feel like you're getting away with it, he doesn't. He gets a goal that's worth 8 points. And it just feels like he is the own. And Nacho's already mentioned it. You can own both. Like, there are people with both that still have good teams. And Nacho, you've mentioned it already. Would you say that is the way to go? Or do you feel like with everything that's happening with this City team, not owning Haaland is the optimal way forward?
Yeah, so for context, I think if I owned Haaland right now, I would be very, very tempted to keep him just because of what we saw with the Spurs game. But if you said to me right now, build a wildcard team for game week 12, it wouldn't have Haaland and it would have Mo Salah in. So that is the context, definitely. Just because I think there are so many brilliant forwards in the game right now. So when I'm looking at these teams, I'm looking at a team like a Newcastle. We got Alexander Isak, who we know is a top 3 forward in this league right now, at 8.4 million, so ridiculously cheap, allowing you to free up the funds to have big midfielders in the game. So I do think a Haalandless team is probably optimal right now, but I just think naturally, if you've had Haaland over the last couple of weeks, you've probably had and not had Salah. It's obviously been a bit of an indifferent week. I just feel like the Spurs game is actually a great game to own him in, and we need to remember Liverpool are the early kickoff. Are they the early kickoff, or is it Chelsea? I can't remember, but regardless, I feel like this is a great fixture for City against Spurs. And I just think the context of it all is the forwards this year. There are so many fantastic ones out there, and even though Erling Haaland can do crazy stuff, score hat tricks, realistically, it's 2 goals. I think there are forwards out there that can at least deliver a goal every other game, and that's what Isak is on the menu right now for a lot of managers.
And like looking at it, Hibbo, in terms of people seem to be saying that 15 million is too much for Haaland now, but it wasn't at the beginning of the season. Is that because at the beginning of the season we had some players out that weren't fit or had been playing in the Euros or whatever it was? So was it that we were picking Haaland because we knew he was a known quantity, whereas now that we know that there's those other budget players or mid-price players that are actually performing, that because we now know who they are, and obviously Salah's one of them, that moving off Haaland becomes way more of a something we can definitely do, because we didn't know that for certain at the beginning of the season. Obviously he smashed it, but now we know those other players. So is that why we're kind of feeling better about moving off Haaland?
But I think I think things change in fantasy. We've seen that point made in Twitter where like people are saying, what's changed? He was the same price at the start of the season, and people had these views and convictions about Haaland, and now they've all of a sudden changed. But I think you have to remember his fixtures were very good at the start of the year.
Yeah.
He started with like Ipswich, West Ham, Brentford, and he don't get me wrong, he totally overperformed those fixtures, and there was hat tricks and braces and stuff like that. But he's completely dried up in the really, really good games. And I think the dynamics changed. Like, look at Man City as a team. They've lost now, 4 in the bounce?
Yeah.
We were going into the season thinking, oh, Man City look hot here. Look, Haaland's had a very good pre-season. And some people don't read into pre-season, and some people don't believe in form or whatever. I do believe in form to a certain extent. And I think, looking at where Man City are as a team, like I watched the match against Brighton. I thought Brighton outplayed them, particularly in the second half. They beat them in XG. They've been beat a lot of times recently in XG, and I don't think that was even a thing under Guardiola before. So you're looking at that squad for Man City and thinking they haven't refreshed it. He's hung his hat in KDB as if he would be like a regular starter in the team. He's been injured the whole time. They sold Alvarez. They haven't really replaced him. They brought back Gundogan. He looks a wee bit leggy. There's lots of stuff about it. You're going, as this has started, like there's decline and like. Okay with Man City, they're still in the mix. They're right up there in the table. But are they producing enough for Haaland to justify the 15? And right now they aren't. Yeah. And that, like, people could say, oh, that's reactionary, and you're reacting to the fact that he's not doing the points. But like, there's other players in the game here. Like, I can buy a Palmer, I can buy Saka, I can buy Salah, and that's really what the decision comes down to. Can you cram on 3 of them plus Trent, or can you try and fit 3 of them plus Bruno on? And long run, will you outscore a Haaland team? Probably. You have to take it in the chin if he goes out and does a hat-trick, but those boys, like Ben Creel and Tom Dollymore and these really good players that are top of the Hall of Fame rankings, they've been back in this since game week 5, and they had the tough weeks. Yeah. But now it's come up roses, like so.
I just look at it and think it was debatable whether he was worth 15 million when they had all their players fit, they had Rodri in there, they had the nice fixtures, and now they're struggling and they're not winning games and they're not the best team in the league at the moment, and Haaland's obviously not performing. Is he worth 15 million now? And it's obviously, if there was a debate before, I just look at it now and just think I don't think there's a debate anymore. I don't think there is. I just don't think you can own him.
I would say one thing is, having taken Haaland out, obviously we view FPL different things. Some people play it for fun, some people take it very, very serious. One thing I will say is, when you take Haaland out, the game becomes a lot more fun. A lot more fun, because you just have so much more flexibility in your team. Whereas the forwards right now, you do have a lot of good forwards in the game. So you paint your own picture in your head. But for me, I can honestly select a lot of forwards out there that I think over the course of a 10-game week period, they can deliver better value than that of Erling Haaland. Whereas I don't have that feeling about certain midfielders in the game. And I just think having that flexibility with the cash, and there's so many amazing options this season that I feel like it's actually quite sad not having the opportunity to dip your toe in loads of different assets, because we're now getting into this period right now, and Man United with Bruno Fernandes has suddenly emerged as an option. We've got Newcastle assets looking fantastic, but if you're sat there with a Salah and Haaland draft for some managers out there, you can just forget about those picks because they just cannot physically be in your team due to the constraints of your budget. So, I think it's definitely a funner game when you go without Erling Haaland, but it's a scary game.
But I think see the point you're making there. It extends on to captaincy, and like if you look at those teams that went without Haaland, every week they're trying to get a wee bit creative with captaincy. Like people nailed Bruno Fernandes captain, 17 plus 2, 34 pointer. They've been nailing Salah the last couple of weeks. And the earlier weeks when like Krell and those boys had done it, they were hitting Palmer captain, they were hitting Saka captain. Like you have to think outside the box, and okay, you could have a nice run of luck or variance where your captain manages to hit. But if you have Haaland by default, you just go to him for captain. You know, like quite often you don't think outside the box and you just go, he'll do me because he's old reliable. But you're kind of not leaving yourself open to having that big lucky week, if that makes any sense.
I've got to say as well, and people will hate this, and I don't care because it's true. There has been a tremendous amount of swing in variance with this as well. Like, it's been ridiculous. The fixtures Haaland's had, the XG he's put up, and what he's actually returned. You couldn't believe that it would happen before it happened, basically. You were looking at the fixtures and people were saying, like, I had Triple City. I was like, those fixtures are ridiculous. I've got to get on Triple City. And then to have the other side of the swing happen where Haaland obviously doesn't do anything in those amazing fixtures, and then those other players too do everything. It's just, you could not believe it 5 weeks ago that this would have happened. Obviously, it's happened, and there were people, and this is why I'm not one of the best managers in the world, because they obviously saw this coming to an extent, and it's happened. But it's mental that it's happened in the way that it has. But we've got to talk about it, and obviously we've got to react with the information we have. And what I'm looking at and thinking is that I've obviously misjudged the situation, and I think you just can't own a Haaland. I'm just looking at it and thinking, with like Nacho's been saying, with the options that you also have and the plentiful amount of players you can get, I just feel like you can't do it. Not at the moment, anyway.
No.
Whether that changes. But looking at, and this is something I wanted to show tonight as well, FPL Greyhead does the Great in the Good League, and this is the Great in the Good League templates. These are the most owned players. And what I wanted to ask very quickly, because this is where we're going to finish tonight, we're not going to look at our best teams and that because we're already gone on a bit long. We're going to do that next week, looking at our teams moving forward. I just wanted to look at the Great in the Good template and just quickly think, which of these players do we think are still going to be in this template in 2 to 3 weeks' time, basically. So based on those fixture swings we were looking at. So at the moment, the template is Flecken in goal, Gabriel, Lewis, Trent and Pedro Porro, and Bumo, Salah and Palmer in midfield, Solanke, Cunha and Raul Jimenez up top, with Fabianski, Greaves, Rogers and Semenyo. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to very, very quickly go through each player, and you're going to tell me yes or no, are they still going to be in this template in 2-3 weeks' time? So you're kind of guessing, are they going to have loads of transfers out to try and get loads of other players in, basically? So Flecken in goal. Flecken in goal. Flecken in goal, Hibbo. Is he going to be in this template in 2-3 weeks' time?
Definitely not.
Yeah. Nacho?
No.
No? Fair enough. Fabianski's there. Fabianski, is he going to be in the template, Hibbo, yes or no?
Yes.
Yep. Nacho?
Yeah. Sitting on to.
Gabriel, is he going to be in the template, Hibbo, yes or no?
Locked on.
Yeah. Nacho?
Yes. Yeah. Unless Timber emerges as an option, yes, Gabriel.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are selling him this week, and I think if they did, I think they're going to regret it looking at the fixtures moving forward. Rico Lewis, Nacho?
No, I think people are now scared to go Lewis.
Yeah. Hibbo?
Depends if you have priority transfers. It might still be there in a couple of weeks.
It's cheap, isn't it?
It's cheap, like, you don't necessarily need to take him out. I would sell Porro before Lewis.
All right, wait, don't go on to Porro yet. Trent, 7 million. What do you reckon, Hibbo?
He might be injured, so I'm going to say no.
Yeah. Nacho?
Yeah, I would say no. As a Trent owner, I'm going to say no. Injury possibly gets you out of the Southampton game, and then they get a little bit comfortable fixtures for me.
Yeah. Pedro Porro, Nacho?
No. That Ipswich game has scared everybody, I think.
Yeah. Hibbo?
Praz has basically been saying all season that Porro's a terrible pick, and he was right. He's and you said it too in pre-season, Andy. He's a terrible pick. I swear, I can't wait to sell him. Terrible.
And I ended up with him.
Spursy shite.
And I ended up with him. And Boomo, what do you think, Hibbo?
Fixtures get a wee bit tighter, but there's a reason they sell. I see all this Boomo XG and blah, blah, blah. No, I think he stays.
Yeah. Nacho?
Yeah, I think he stays in the majority of active teams, yes.
Yeah. Mo Salah? Both of you, I'm assuming, is a yes.
But I am looking at the fixtures.
Oh, don't. If you move off Salah and I'm finally moved to him and he starts drying up.
Sorry, I know we're doing quick fire, but let me just say this quickly. Southampton, Real Madrid, Man City, Newcastle away in the space of like 10 days. Just saying. Carry on.
I hate you so much.
Throwing that grenade out there.
Palmer, Hibbo?
Absolutely locked on.
Yeah. Nacho?
Locked, yeah.
Yeah. Rodgers, Hibbo?
Somebody had a post up. It might have been Neil Scantoriga that Iwobi has more points than Morgan Rogers. What do you think of that?
I think we mentioned that about Adama Traore not that long ago, didn't we? But Rodgers
but like you know, like there's this kind of trend where like everybody absolutely loves Rogers, but you'll see loads of good teams that don't have him on. You know, his ownership 66.7%. Somebody might squeeze like Saka and the midfield maybe there. I'm going to say he's not there. No.
I will say, by the way, 66.7%, but the amount of people that bench him will obviously make that go down every week. But Nacho, what do you think, Rodgers?
Yeah, I still like Rodgers. I think he's just long-term good pick.
Yeah. Semenyo, Nacho?
Semenyo, yes, I still think he is a great pick for teams, and I think he'll remain in a lot of teams.
Hibbo?
Great pick. Bournemouth attack, great all round, I think.
Yeah. Solanke, Hibbo?
He can get out. You know, I might be forced to kind of play Solanke this week, which is far from ideal. And next week's okay, I think, because he's got Fulham. But no, I think there's kind of stuff in the mid price that you could get the head of Solanke and put your money where it counts. You know, start getting some good defenders, a good keeper. And don't know. I'm going to say, will he be there? No.
Basically, if their Christian name is Dominic, don't go near him. Nacho, Solanke?
No, I think if you get to Isak, get to Isak.
Yeah. Cunha, Nacho?
Good, yeah. Long-term good baller.
Good.
He's good, very good. And he's a baller. He's a baller.
He is good. He is
Hibbo?
good. I can do it all. His assist threat, goal threat. I like Cunha a lot. Should have bought him last week. Somebody in the chat says I was waffling. My story was waffle to you, FPL dig. Not waffle. All that was true.
Hibbo, last one. Raul Jimenez.
No, I'm going to say no.
I don't think it will either, no. Nacho?
No, because of João Pedro.
Yes, nice. So, yeah, so the ones we're thinking will start to emerge in this team then? We're thinking Pedro, we're thinking Brighton players, like obviously Pedro we've just said there, maybe a Brighton defender there. Anybody else, boys, before we finish off?
So Isak as like a premium forward, João Pedro. João Pedro is a premium forward, and then I think there's going to be a reinvestment in Arsenal. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see like Saka, or an Odegaard, but I think you just pay for the Saka price.
Yeah. Nice. Right, we're going to finish off there because we do obviously have next week's one. So you'll be looking at our bus teams next week. We'll be looking at the community team as well, who are probably going to thank me that they haven't been shown this week because they only did a little bit better than me and Hibbo. So that's keeping us going a little bit, Hibbo. And then we're also going to be looking at a few other things next week, a few more stats and a few more XA, XG, XGI, all that kind of stuff that we normally do. So thank you so much for the people that have joined us this evening. Thank you so much for the people that have joined us online straight away. Thank you so much for people that are listening after the fact, and also for those people listening on the pod. We appreciate each and every one of you, even if right now you don't necessarily appreciate us. Nacho, thank you so much for coming on the stream this evening and propping up these two old boys here. Hope you enjoyed your evening.
Enjoyed it very much. It's the least I could do for you boys propping me up for the first 10 game weeks. So it's the least I could do.
Oh,
Cheers,
exactly. Hibbo, thank you so much as well. Like I said, misery loves company. For the fact both of us were on 28 and still didn't, as a combined score, get anywhere near Nacho. I think we did quite well tonight, really.
We'll be back.
Yeah, exactly.
Stay positive. Do you know what I mean? Don't let the naysayers drag us down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you naysayer, Nacho. Right. And thank you so much for everybody for joining us this evening. We wish you the best of luck. Enjoy the international break. Enjoy no FPL. I know I'm going to. And we'll see you all again next week when we start looking at how our teams are shaping up, ready for Game Week 12. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again. Bye-bye.